And welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm Bill Tucker filling in for Steve, who is taking a well-deserved vacation. All right, now let's welcome in the Malzberg panel who are not on vacation. Here's Amy Holmes, political analyst for Rasmussen Reports, and Noah Rothman, assistant online editor with Commentary Magazine. We've got a lot of things to get to today, panel, but we're going to start first with a unique idea that really seems to have gone unnoticed from former President Bill Clinton, who thinks that we should welcome the Syrian refugees with open arms for an unusual reason. Roll the clip.
The truth is, the big loser in this over the long run is going to be Syria. This is an enormous opportunity for Americans. Detroit has 10,000 empty, structurally sound houses. 10,000. And a lot of jobs to be had repairing those houses.
Yeah, how about this truth? As of June, the unemployment rate in Detroit was 11.6%. And maybe the real losers in this equation are the people in Detroit who would love to have a job that paid them some money so that maybe they could live in those 10,000 empty structures that are so sound. Amy, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts about Bill Clinton's
well, it is
ruminations?
an overlooked idea because it's obviously a bad idea. Look, I'm all for urban renewal, and Detroit, as we know, sorely needs it. They don't have a functioning police force. People aren't getting even just community services there, let alone gainful employment. But Bill Clinton also seems to be overlooking the fact that our FBI director, James Comey, testified to Congress that we have no way of knowing who those Syrians are coming into our country. We have no way to vet them because we don't have on-the-ground eyes and ears to even compare them to lists of known terrorists. So it fails on a lot of fronts when it comes to foreign policy and also domestic urban policy.
Noah, are you with Amy on this, or what are your thoughts?
For the most part, the big headline out of the State Department this month was that we resettled our 10,000th Syrian refugee. They really increased the tempo of the process after lagging behind and enduring some criticism from the left for leaving a lot of Syrian refugees in the lurch and not doing our fair share to take some of the burden off of Europe. Bill Clinton's suggestion seems pretty well tongue-in-cheek, but it really demonstrates the folly of central planners. His suggestion is that we should fill up all these empty spaces with people who don't want to be there in the first place. That's not your position to make. What you should be saying is, why are all these people leaving Detroit? Why are all these people leaving Syria? The reality is that the conditions on the ground compel them to leave these places because they're not friendly places to live. If you want to create conditions where people want to resettle, then you have to increase the incentives to live there, which is a result of economic development and growth.
Yeah, and one of the things that fascinates me about this is our tendency as Americans, particularly political Americans, is that we seem to think that if we can solve all our problems by bringing in outside foreign labor to do the work that people in this country so desperately would like to have. And speaking of the economy, it is becoming, I think, a more central part of this campaign. First ad buy by Donald Trump this year, this election season as of this week, is attacking Ms. Clinton on the economy, essentially saying, you didn't like what you got under Obama, you're going to get more of it under Clinton. Noah, do you think this is a good direction for Trump to take this campaign at this point?
Yeah, I also think it's a safe direction, and it's surprisingly safe. I mean, he needs a race car, and he's driving a Honda Civic. You're in the middle of a race where you're down to 6 to 8 points. An economic message isn't going to cut it. It's his strongest position. It's where he pulls the best. And if he's going to lean on that hard, I don't think it's going to cut it right now. He needs to change minds at this point.
Well, before I come to Amy, I've got to ask you why not? I mean, empirically, this is not a great economy by any stretch of the imagination. And when you look at the economy through Bush, through Obama, we've been averaging an economic growth that's barely over 1% a year.
Sure.
That's pathetic, Noah.
Oh, it is, and he should press that message. But polls consistently show that Donald Trump beats Hillary Clinton on the message of creating jobs and economic development and growth. Yeah, those polls also show Donald Trump losing by healthy margins. That message isn't going to cut it. He needs a different message.
Amy, what do you think?
I would disagree with Noah. When you also look at polls, the economy is the #1 issue of concern to voters. And as we all know on the show, the the number of people who have just dropped out of the workforce because they can't find full-time employment as it is at historic highs. It's a message that works for Donald Trump. It's a message that is resonating with Americans and potentially his supporters. I agree he needs to go further, and I'll be watching that September 26th debate with Hillary Clinton to hear more.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And speaking of a different kind of direction and not playing it so safe, Amy, Trump has made a direct appeal to black voters. And I don't know, because I can't see any solid evidence, except that we do see a tightening in the polls. Is his message to black voters, what have you got to lose? What have the Democrats done for you lately? Do you think you're in a unique position to know with your position at Rasmussen? Is this resonating?
So far, no. And in fact, last week at Rasmussen Reports, we found Hillary Clinton's lead with over Donald Trump actually widening slightly. But Rasmussen Reports has asked the question of likely voters this spring how they feel about politicians raising race issues. And an overwhelming majority, 73% of those surveyed, say that they think politicians raise these issues for self-serving partisan purposes, not to actually solve any of these problems. And that goes for both sides of the aisle.
Sorry.
Look, Donald Trump.
I'm sorry, Amy, go on.
Really?
When is anything that a politician has ever done was for unselfish reasons?
But
Come on.
particularly when it comes to race issues. Last week we saw Donald Trump accusing Hillary Clinton of being a bigot. I thought that was ugly, mudslinging, and Hillary Clinton accusing Donald Trump and Donald Trump's supporters of being racist. That too was ugly, bottom of the barrel mudslinging. Both of these candidates are debasing our political discourse, and at Rasmussen Reports in our surveys, they find that the voters agree.
Now, is it, in your opinion, really debasing, or is this something that needs to be said? Why shouldn't a Republican say, wait a minute, you have been voting Democrat as a bloc for decades upon decades, and what have you gotten? Because at this point, with the unemployment rate among young black men at unimaginable double-digit levels, why is that not fair game? Why wouldn't that resonate?
Because I don't think it's real outreach. I think it's what older white Republicans want to hear about African American voters. I don't think it's genuine outreach. I don't think when you're saying to black voters, you're living in a cesspit, you have made terrible decisions over the course of your lifetime and in many lifetimes and generations, you've created this condition for yourself, and now you need to take a gamble, frankly, on me. That's not outreach to any particular voting bloc. That's speaking over the heads of this demographic group to people who want to hear that message. And that message is resonating really powerfully with Republican voters. It's not resonating for the people who are supposedly being reached out to. So I would suggest that it's not African American outreach at all.
Well, I don't know about that, because I yesterday had an interview with Quantel X, the new Black Panther Nation, and Quantel basically came out and said Donald Trump is right, and I'm going to vote for Donald Trump because he's finally laid bare the truth no one dare speak. The Democrats are lying, and they take the black vote for advantage. They really
right, but Amy's not wrong.
No, go ahead.
Amy's not wrong, and the numbers don't lie. You can find outliers, but the numbers suggest that Donald Trump is polling worse than Mitt Romney and John McCain when they were running against the first black president. There's something really wrong there, and if this campaign doesn't do any introspection on that measure, it's going to reflect poorly on them.
And Noah's exactly right on that. And 2 weeks ago at Rasmussen Reports, we surveyed likely voters. At Rasmussen Reports, we had Donald Trump pulling 7% among African-American voters, but Gary Johnson pulling 15%, more than twice Donald Trump. Gary Johnson, libertarian candidate, whether or not he's doing this flashy outreach or giving big speeches, what he has to say about moving our country forward, libertarian prescriptions for economic and social problems, is actually doing a lot better than the Republican nominee.
No, was that you? Did you want to jump in there? I thought I heard you start to talk.
No, I was just reacting vocally. That's interesting finding, actually. It's something I would like to investigate further. It's a hopeful message, I would think, that this campaign would like to take some cues from Gary Johnson, whose message is not explicitly racial, but rather economic, truly economic.
Right,
Yeah.
and I would also add something that is a bit of a media mythology about Bill Clinton. Back in 1992, actually 22% of African American voters voted for George Bush, 10% for George Bush, and for Ross Perot. So Bill Clinton didn't exactly clean up with the African American vote as sort of modern political pundits would have you believe.
Well, believe it or not, I take this part of the discussion as the most hopeful thing that I've heard all day. Truthfully, I do. We have like 30 seconds left. Just a really quick one-sentence answer on this. Both of these people have dug themselves into holes I don't think they can get out of. Their favorability and their trust ratings suck. They stink. They're bad. Noah, start with you. You got 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Go.
This is a condition of their own making, and hopefully there's a place to rebuild after 2016.
Yeah, can they dig out of it, Amy? What do you think?
No, I mean, they have a very well-established reputation as public figures, have done for decades. This is going to be an election between who voters, I guess, like least.
Amy, thank you so much. Noah, thank you for joining us as well. Up next, John Zogby with the latest on the presidential polls. Keep it here.